So let's talk about bubbles. Not the kind you find in the bathtub. I want to talk about bubbles that we set up for ourselves. You know, I was on my social media feed, ironically, because that's what I'm going to talk about. The biggest bubble of them all, right? And I found an article that talked about bubbles, and it got me thinking. Bubbles are, we have a tendency to set up bubbles in our lives. And what that is just a safe little warm, fuzzy environment of thought of things that we accept, right? I accept this way of thinking. I accept this side of the political spectrum. I accept this ideal, this, and every once in a while it's just funny memes or funny videos. But a lot of the things that we follow are things that we have chosen and we have agreed and said, yes, I want to be exposed to that on a regular basis. Okay? Doesn't seem so wrong, except that how are you going to be challenged? In life, if you go back, let's say 20 years ago, before social media, before the internet almost, but before all this started happening, really you would have radio and you'd have just certain TV channels, but otherwise we didn't have these little bubbles or pods or boxes, and we just interacted, and you'd come across ideas that were challenging, different, new, and you had to learn how to deal with the world that didn't agree with your viewpoint. And nowadays, it seems like because we have these little safe boxes of thought that we subscribe ourselves to, anything outside of that seems like so far out of reality that a lot of times, sometimes we violently even disagree with somebody else who has an opposing viewpoint. I'm not saying this as a political platform, okay? Although it does apply heavily to politics. You look at Fox News, for example. All the followers on Fox News, a lot of them, the vast majority of them, agree with the ideas and philosophies, and of course the conservative leaning of the people on Fox News. And then go to CNN. Most of the followers on CNN or MSNBC agree with the way that they report the exact same thing sometimes, which can be a totally different viewpoint. Okay? And you can tell because every once in a while there's somebody that follows them that doesn't, and they post an opposing opinion, and they get raked over the coals by hundreds of commenters that name calling and slandering and making fun of them, and it's ridiculous. And I think social media has caused, I don't know if it's entirely social media to blame, but the way of thinking that comes from social media has caused this in our society, and such a degree that we don't even accept other people's opinions. Anyone who's not the same as us is wrong. It's not just that they're different or that they have their opinions anymore. It's, this is the way I think and everyone else is wrong. So, bubbles are dangerous. Let me just say that flat out. Bubbles are dangerous. And like I was saying, it doesn't only apply to politics, but it applies to a lot of things. So what is in your feed? What is in your social media feed? Who do you follow on Instagram and on Facebook? Are you following only things that you like? Do you follow anything that makes you uncomfortable? And if so, why? And if not, why not? I'm just curious. I'm just getting the gears turning in the brain. I'd like to hear what you have to say about this, because as I read about these bubbles, it occurred to me, I need to beware that I don't allow bubbles to form too heavily in my life. I think to some degree, we become like those we hang around and spend time with. So our friends, naturally, could be a bubble there. Our family, we spend a lot of time at home raising our kids, and time around your spouse, and you probably have a similar way of thinking. At least you have to come together. And so we probably have these smaller kind of natural bubbles anyways. But I think as a society in whole, especially as it pertains to social media, which, again, like I said, I think is the strongest, biggest bubble offender, creator of bubbles unnecessarily, that exists out there right now. And it's a scary thing if you look at it, because people are basically saying this: here's what I agree with, here's what I conform to, here's what matters to me, and I'm not going to allow other ideas into my life. I'm not going to allow myself to be exposed to other thoughts, new ways of thinking, or to consider someone else's viewpoint. So we unlike or don't follow the pages, the social media pages that we don't agree with or that we don't like, and we like and follow the ones that we do, which reinforces our own ideas and ways of thinking, but keeps us from being exposed to new ones, I guess. There was an article written about it in the New York Times about Facebook's biggest obstacle, or I can't remember how. It was just a few days ago. I have yet to read it. I've heard about it, but I've yet to read it. But it sounds really interesting, because Facebook is creating these silos where it's not even groups of people, but now you're individually siloed. You at your computer, or you at your cell phone by yourself, no one else around. I mean, you don't even have to go to a club anymore to surround yourself with like-minded people. You can do it on social media by yourself at night in front of a computer, no one else even in the house. And so it's just fascinating how this segmentation of society is creeping in and affecting how we even think. And I think it's dangerous, especially for youth. If you've got kids at home, I encourage you to delay the excessive use of social media. Put in restrictions, but then sit down with them and talk to them about this, and how it's dangerous to limit our ways of thinking, especially so early on in our lives. I mean, at any point in our lives, but why would you want to do that when you're a teenager? I mean, why would you want to do that when you're a young adult or in college? College, those years are the years for exploring. Those years are the years for looking at new things and trying out new opportunities, figuring out what you want to do with your life. Do you want to be this or that, or do you want to be an entrepreneur, or do you want to be a mom, or do you want to be do you want to drive a truck for a living? Or do you want to be a contractor? Or do you want to be a doctor? Or what do you want to do with your life? And if we become so close-minded that we form our own little bubbles, then we're essentially saying no to opportunities that could come our way that we don't even know could come our way, that we would miss out on. And it's kind of a troubling thought if you think about it, because social media bubbles, you think to yourself, okay, well, I'm careful in my social media feed, I don't have this or that. Okay, I got it. I put in a good mix. All right, that's fine. But what about the prevailing idea that this is creeping into our society, and we're getting used to the idea of, I get to pick and choose what I'm exposed to. I get to choose, and I'm going to choose this, and I'm going to choose that. And don't get me wrong, to some degree that's good. I don't want to be exposed to tons of profanity, for example, if I'm, your kids, or I don't want to be exposed to evil influences or things that are contrary to my core values and beliefs, or that, have a negative spirit about it. There might be some religious things. Those, on a deeper fundamental level, those are, I get that. You don't want to say, I'm against pornography, but I'm keeping an open mind, so I'm going to go ahead and allow pornography in my room or in my home, because I know I don't want to ever rule out a new way of thinking that I might be exposed to, pardon the pun, with pornography. Well, that's just ridiculous. You can know that pornography is bad, and you can know that it's not right for you, and you can not include any of that on your social media feed without having to test the waters. So there are certain things that don't apply here with the bubble thing. So bubbles, I guess, in a sense, in and of themselves aren't so bad. It's that the bubbles are so strong and so prominent and so rigid and so black and white, and they're becoming so easy to form. And I think the biggest problem is we're not used to having them be so real in our lives, and they can often just happen without us even really knowing. I mean, when was the last time you sat down and did an audit on social media and said, what am I following? What's good? What's bad? What's wrong? What needs to be cleaned up? What new can I follow that I don't necessarily agree with, that keeps me exposed to new ideas and challenges my way of thinking? How many of us sit down and consciously do that? I would venture to say very few of us. I think most of us, it's easy. We follow something, we think it's funny, we look at the page, we like it, we agree with it, therefore we click like and follow. And then we get to see more of the same, and it reinforces more of the same. Anyways, how does this apply to goal setting? Well, in every way. You've got to challenge yourself, step out of the box, and expose yourself to new ideas to know what else is out there that you could even go after, accomplish, or do in your life, right? And it gets the brain going. It keeps your brain active and constantly exploring new things. Nothing great happens inside the walls of your comfort zone. And I think these little bubbles are comfort zones. When you don't have something to do and you're bored and you don't necessarily want to challenge yourself or whatever, it's so easy just to click on, open up Facebook, and just start scrolling because everything is fed to you. But friends, that's not really where greatness lies. If we want to pursue our goals and go after great things, we've got to challenge ourselves and sometimes pop our little bubbles and say, that's great, but it's not doing me any favors. Take a look at your bubbles. Be aware of them. Pop a few of them. See what happens. And make some comments below and let me know what you think.